Hello, and welcome to the Scenic Route, where we have conversations with super interesting people about their journeys that they've taken in their lives that maybe were unexpected and have taken them to better places than they ever could have imagined. And like how we get to places without where it's not a straight line. So I'm very excited to have Julie Harris Oliver here today. She's a leadership coach. Welcome, Julie. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, would you like to introduce yourself a little better?
Oh, sure. It's funny because I will admit to you, I host a bunch of podcasts and I interview a lot of people, and it's so rare that I'm interviewed that I'm like, I'm a little nervous. Um, I am an executive leadership transformational coach. I spent 25 years at least working in entertainment in Hollywood on the finance mostly side of things. As I just mentioned, I've been podcasting I just had my 10-year anniversary. And that has been the funnest thing I've ever done. You know how fun it is. And now I am living in Nashville with my fairly new husband. I have 3 kids and 2 stepkids, all of which are out of the house or will be in a month. And now I'm here talking to you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, I'm very excited. So, thinking back, did you always want to work in Hollywood? Was that kind of what you were imagining when you were a kid or going to school?
I mean, kind of. I think when I was a kid, I was either going to be a dancer or an actor. So much so that I went to college for acting. I was like, that is the thing. I was very into musical theater. I was an acting major at NYU with an emphasis in musical theater. I will say I was an excellent tap dancer. And I was not that good of an actor. So I realized around my junior year, I was like, oh, I'm definitely not going to be an actor. Like by then I'd been exposed to so much incredible talent on Broadway, and I did a semester in London. So I saw the West End and people I went to school with. And I was like, oh, I'm not that. Like, no, that's not me. But by then I was almost through with my degree. So I finished my degree as an acting major because also I think the most fun way to go through college. It wasn't until later in my career where I was like, God, I wish I'd gotten a little more educated, to be honest. And it's funny because you're doing it the hard way. Like I had a great career, ironically, in finance.
Yeah.
But I had to figure it out as I went along. So I got out of school. I knew I wanted to work in, or I thought I wanted to work in like production, like film production, film and television. Not as an actor, but behind the scenes. I thought, oh, I want to be a director. So at some point I left New York. I went back to Seattle, where I'm from, for about 6 months. And then I moved to Arizona for a boy. Ladies, don't do that. In your 20s, don't do that. It's not a great idea.
Time to do that, though, like in your 20s.
If you're ever going to do it, that is the time. However, don't do that. So I ended up in Phoenix, and I was temping like at Motorola, like sitting next to a missile across from the cattle farm, and I was vegan at the time. Like, I was like, what am I doing here?
Surrounded by war.
It was awful. And then a friend of mine from high school who lived in LA, who worked in production, said, stop complaining and go find a job in production. And I was like, oh, like that hadn't actually occurred to me. So I found like one of 2 commercial production houses in Phoenix. And I went in and I said, I would like to work for you. And I said, I would like to be a director. And he said, yes, I will make you a producer, but you have to do my bookkeeping. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty good. Okay, how hard could that be? So he made me a producer. I learned bookkeeping. I did his books. I did all his payroll by hand, which will come in handy later in my life. And I did that for about 3 years. And in the nature of commercials, you're not shooting every day. You're shooting once a month if you're lucky. And so in the downtime, my boss, Mike Cucharo, who was such an incredible mentor to me, would just sit in my office and teach me about film production. Like, it was like, I don't know, it was like going to grad school. It was incredible. So about 3 years later, I was like, I got to get out of Phoenix. I want to go back to New York. And I sent 100 resumes to New York, and I sent one resume to LA, and I got one phone call, and it was LA. So I got in my car.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I moved to LA, but I got to tell you, the minute I landed in LA, like I had looked at the Thomas guide to look at the map. Hello, we did not have GPS. And then I got a rental car from Burbank Airport. I drove to my interview. I didn't even look at the map. I felt completely at home the second I landed. I was like, oh, I'm going to live here, obviously. Yeah. So I got a job at a commercial production company. And I worked there for about a year. And then at one point, I was on a conference call with an advertising agency, and we were talking very seriously about Tony the Tiger and the sociological implications of Tony the Tiger. And people who were our age, Gen X, had a very deep relationship with Tony the Tiger. But we needed to make sure that younger generations, foster their relationship with Tony the Tiger. And by the end of that conversation, I thought, I have to get out of here. Like, I'm not spending my life talking about Tony the Tiger. No. So I looked at job listings. And it's funny because this is where I took a turn that really laid the path for the rest of my life, which at the time, like, kind of was not in the direction probably I should have gone, although it all worked out. So, I can't be mad about it. I went to the Walt Disney Company and I got hired as a production auditor. So my job was to go onto film and television sets and audit their books, look at their policies and procedures, make sure that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And typically it was a job that they hired CPAs out of Big Five firms to do. And I said, well, I have accounting experience and I have production experience. I can do this job.
I'm perfect.
And they were like, this is a great experiment, but go ahead. So I got that job. So I did that job for a few years, which was incredible. I traveled around the world. I got to go to a bunch of sets. And I learned all about production accounting and production finance. So when I came out of that, there was such a job at HBO. And so I applied for this job. I had 6 months worth of interviews. After my final interview, the woman, spoiler, who became my boss called me up and said, Julie, I noticed on your resume by your education, it says ACTING. I thought that was an abbreviation for accounting. Could you please explain yourself? I was like,
what do you mean?
I was like, yeah, I have an acting degree.
I'm an actor.
So then we hung up and I was like, oh, I've lost that job. But I was like, I knew I could do that job. Yeah. So I wrote her a 10-page email detailing every aspect of production accounting, every accounting module, how it all fit together. And I got hired for that job. So I spent 7 years at HBO. I'm telling you the long version of this story. Is this what you wanted?
Yes, please. No, it's so curious because I didn't even know that there was this auditing thing for productions. Like, it makes sense because you want to make sure that your money is getting spent where wisely and everything else, I'm assuming, is what you're... Yeah. Well, so I'm like, wow, this is a thing? This is a job?
It is a thing and it is a job. And they spend so much money so quickly.
Yeah.
You have to know how it's being spent at every moment, estimating how much you have left so that producers can put that money, as they say, on the screen and not just throwing it wherever.
Paying for all the fluff.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is a very particular kind of accounting and it is very niche. Like, I would never pretend that I could go be an accountant in any sort of regular company. But production finance I got. So I worked at HBO for 7 years. I had 3 babies. The thing about HBO is no one ever leaves. It is an incredible company. And I now had 3 babies and I needed to make more money. So I left and I went to the Weinstein Company. Yes, Bob and Harvey Weinstein. And it was as chaotic as you would expect. And they didn't have any money. It was a mess. I met some incredible people there who I'm still friends with. But after about 9 months, I was like, I need to do something else. And a friend of mine who had this great job at this entertainment payroll company, Entertainment Partners, told me that she was leaving her job and I should have it. And I said, oh, okay, I think I should. So she introduced me to who then became my boss. And so then I went to Entertainment Partners. I started as director of marketing and sales, and I was there for 10 years. And at the end, I was vice president of marketing and sales, and I was in charge of inside sales and the client services department. I focused on independents and reality television companies. I had a $2 billion book business. It was great. It was also very hard and stressful. And by the end of it, the company was getting ready for a sale, and it had just gotten very stressful. And it was no longer great for me personally to be doing this. And I knew I needed to get out probably a year before I did. I kept going. Also around this time, I had started a podcast called The Other 50%, A History of Hollywood. And I had started interviewing successful women in entertainment to hear their stories. And I was kind of trying to figure out, like, what is happening with women in Hollywood, because the numbers of equality and representation there are terrible. And yet I knew so many women executives. They were all my clients when I was doing marketing and sales for entertainment, payroll, and accounting. So I knew there were so many high-powered women in this business and still so little representation on screen. And also it was just so hard. And it was that point in my career where I was starting to realize, oh, it's not me that's making it so hard. Like, it's not because I have an acting degree and I'm trying to do a finance job. It's actually systemic. And there is a systemic problem. And it's embarrassing to me that it took me until I was a vice president to figure that out. But so that became my mission. I started interviewing these women. And funny story, when I started it, I was afraid I was going to get fired because I was doing this podcast on the side. By the time I launched, well, frankly, nobody cared. So I was able to keep the podcast.
Like, well, it's a podcast, right?
Yeah. And I had interviewed so many of my clients. They couldn't fire me because I was embedded with all of our clients. But I was so inspired by them and had heard so many of their stories that when it came time for me to leave, I thought, I think I can actually negotiate my exit here. Because I'd seen a bunch of men before me do it. And I finally kind of had permission because I had some examples. And so I did. And I don't think I can say anything more about it than that.
but like the fact that you, instead of just leaving, you negotiated your exit. That's huge, right? Like, most women don't think that that's okay, right? Even if they've seen men do it. It's like, oh no, I'll just go. I'm not going to cause a hassle. So the fact that you did it, it's like, wow.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing was, I don't think I mentioned, I got divorced a couple of years into this job. So now I had 3 little kids, and I was the breadwinner, and I was paying alimony and child support. That's how that went for me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just quit my job and walk away. And ironically, I was on the phone with my mother on the way to work one day, and I said, I'm quitting today. Like, I have no plan. My body is walking towards HR. And she said to me, too bad you can't negotiate your exit. And I went, ding, 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 ding.
But I can.
But I can. So I called some people. I was like, what should I ask for? So I was able to negotiate my exit, which gave me some breathing room. And I thought, okay, I'm getting off the ramp. I am ramping up my podcast. I went at it full time. I worked 60 hours a week on that podcast. I started other podcasts. I started a podcast talking to women in tech, the history of tech. I produced a podcast for two other friends of mine called Exit 38, who were two people who were old friends, but on opposite sides of the political spectrum. And this was like 2018, before things had gone
Wild.
absolutely bananas. So we did a podcast of them talking to each other. I did another podcast called Kiss My Age Show with two of my girlfriends. That was super fun. We did like 10 episodes or so. And then I did another podcast with some co-producers called the Catch a Break podcast. And that's the insider's guide to breaking into and navigating Hollywood. And that was with Jeanette Volturno and Catchlight Films, which is a production company. And so they had access to all kinds of people who were incredible interviews. Like I was talking to award-winning, all kinds of people on the crew. It was great. And it was kind of the primer for people wanting to get into the business. And the very last year, we were the companion podcast for Project Greenlight on HBO. So all of that was so fun and so creative and so filled my soul and paid for itself, but didn't pay my mortgage. And then my oldest daughter got into USC. And then I thought, I'm going to have to go back to work. I'm going to have to go get a salary for another few years. So I went back. I feel like I'm monologuing.
No, but I'm curious. How long did you do the podcasting after you had left? I think you just said it, but I somehow missed it.
I stayed home for 2 years and did that.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time for it to not actually be paying all the bills, but filling up your cup. I feel like that's the thing. I think we underestimate how much time, if we've gotten ourselves to that burnout stage, it's like how much time you need to be doing just something fun, to be doing something that fills your cup before you're like, okay, I'm ready to maybe go back or do something different, right? Like,
I can go face it again.
Yeah, it's taken me like 3 years.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, it takes some time. I mean, we don't talk very much about, we talk about burnout all the time.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot of work trauma.
Yes.
And that's what takes a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I also found I don't even know how you clear that up, because believe me, I was in therapy the entire time. But unresolved, that shows up in later jobs where you find yourself reacting to things that probably don't need the reaction you're giving it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, that's how we move from job to job, right? Is like, okay, you reach some point, something happens. It's always happening.
Get me out of here.
Next one. And then you're never dealing with whatever is happening underneath.
Yeah.
But
that's one of the beautiful things about coaching, I think, especially if you're in a corporate environment. Because if you just cut and run, whatever this is going to show up at the next place. So even if you're going to
romantic relationships too, right? It's the same.
You got to deal with your stuff, and you got to figure out at least what your part of it is and how you're going to show up differently. And why not practice while you're at the place where you are? It might be impossible. You might still have to leave. But what if you could show up differently?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's going to change it for the people you work with, at least, right? Even if it's temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll probably feel a lot better about it. And then you could say, okay, I did all I can.
I showed up as myself. I did my stuff, and I still need to go because nothing, I'm like controlling my reaction and response, and I have dealt with this, but the environment still is bad. Which couldn't be very true.
At some point, it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
You've learned your lesson. It's time to move to the next one.
Yeah. So I did. I went back into entertainment payroll, a different company.
Okay.
And I was their SVP of West Coast operations and also some sales. And I did that for a couple of years while COVID hit, and we were all trying to figure out how to respond to that. But in the middle of that, and this is directly because I had been doing the podcast and had kind of become an activist doing the podcast, I got a call from who became my boss, Mekon Shelton, who is absolutely brilliant, to go to Warner Media to work in their diversity, equity, and inclusion department. And I was like, yes, please. So excited to go. I took a title decrease. Like I went from SVP to director to go to that job.
Yeah.
And I was, in theory, totally fine with that because I was thinking, this is a new discipline. I have a lot to learn. I am not about to lead this effort. And I had a lot of passion and some know-how. However, I got there and realized how much I didn't know, how much equity and inclusion is actually a very serious discipline with a lot of PhDs. And it was the most incredible learning environment. I learned so much. I am so grateful for that experience. And the culture they created was like nothing I had ever experienced in a workplace before, because I had been in very much white, male-dominated cultures and everything that goes with that. And so in our department, within this huge entertainment company, it was the most incredible like ecosystem of a very different way of doing work. Like for one, there was so much emphasis on inclusion, human dignity. We did a lot of work around anti-racism. We did a lot of work about gender. We did just so much work about all the things. And it was so incredible. And we were allowed to be vulnerable. Yeah. Along with this incredible culture, we were also doing this work in 2020, 2021, 2022. So George Floyd had been murdered. Time. Yeah. And so we had a lot of meetings where we would be talking about things. We were talking about the work that we were doing, and we would be in tears. And it was so okay to sit there in the team meeting on Zoom and be in tears because we were sad. We were moved. There was so much work to be done. Like it was incredible. It was an incredibly special time to be doing that work, with those people. Like it was so special. And I look back on it so fondly. And then Discovery bought Warner Media, became Warner Brothers Discovery, and gutted the department. There are still some people there doing excellent work, a lot of it in like pipeline programs and trying to get underrepresented people into the business and onto the screen. But for the most part, a lot of that work we were doing just poof, was gone. So I got laid off, and this was the beginning of 2023, probably. So I thought, okay, I need to reinvent myself one more time. And I was pretty sure I did not want to go back to corporate. Like I'd kind of had enough. Sidebar. Remember 20 years before when I said no one ever left HBO? Yeah. Well, HBO was part of Warner Media. And so I got to do this work inside of HBO. And so many of the same people were still there. So it was like going home. Like it was so fun. Anyhow, so I spent 6 months trying to hustle, trying to put together, because my job at Warner was to put equity and inclusion tools onto film and television productions. And so I thought, well, I can consult like that on the side and I can put the tools in wherever. And it was at the same time where the industry went on strikes. Everything got shut down. There was no production happening. So it didn't matter how much I hustled. It was not going to happen. Yeah. And then I went on a vacation, which with my brand new husband at the time. That is a whole other side story about missing doors and on ramps and off ramps. And I broke my wrist in actually a very traumatic way. So after that, do you remember how Oprah told us 30 years ago that sometimes you get a little whisper and you ignore it, and then you get a hint and you ignore it, and then you trip and fall, and then you ignore it, and then you get hit by the Mack truck? Yes.
So for me, it's wasps. They start stinging me and I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I swear I'm listening. I don't need any more. Please.
So when I broke my wrist, I probably had missed several signs before that. And I thought, okay, I am going to sit down and think about what I've done. So I sat down for 6 months and I rotted. And I just was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. During this time, several friends said to me unsolicited, have you thought about becoming an executive coach?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, of course I have. I had a great coach in 2001. And ever since then, I thought, well, someday I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, like, I was 50. Now is the time, I don't get to wait another 10 years to make this shift. And I had about 5 more years of kids in college because I had my 3 and my husband has 2. They're all in college. So I thought, okay, let me go back one more time and work at an entertainment payroll company. Like, that's a job I know I can do well. I know it pays really well, and I can probably get a job by making a phone call.
Yep.
So I did. I called my friend and I got a job. And the week I was supposed to start, the company got rid of the president and put in a new president. And so I was not starting that week, and I needed to re-interview with the new president.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I did. And the next day, I got a call, and he wanted to take $100,000 out of my deal and put me on commission. And I was like, it was so absurd. Like, that's a non-starter. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, there's no negotiating that. That is a fundamental disagreement on how this business works and how you're going to close business and how long it takes.
Yeah.
So I said, no, thank you. And the relief I felt in my body.
When you said no, thank you?
When I said no, thank you. Because I had really talked myself into it. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go do it. It's going to be great. And I'd convinced myself, like, my husband was very happy about the idea. My therapist thought it was a great idea. And so I was doing it. And then that happened. And I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to go. And it still left like, but what was I going to do? So I sat down with my husband, and I had been thinking, okay, I'll go to coaching school, like, on the side of this job. And then I just thought, what if I just went, took a year, went and got certified, got my education, and then started a practice after that. And my husband could not have been more supportive. To be clear, I did not need his permission. I had my own money. But he was like, yes, of course you should do it. And also you need to know it's going to take you 3 years to build your business, not 1. And do it.
Yeah.
And I think it felt to me like the first time in my life that I had made that kind of decision about something that just I wanted to do. And the first time I had had that kind of support in a partner to affirm that I could do what I wanted to do.
Yeah. That's magic.
And so it was incredible. Yeah, and so I did.
What kind of coaching did you decide you wanted to do? Like, how did you make the decision of where to go to school?
Well, I talked to my friends and said, who knows somebody who knows somebody? And so they introduced me to Peter Gandolfino. I'm afraid I'm going to say his name wrong. Peter, who's a Hudson coach. And so I met with Peter, and he said, of course you should go to coaching school, and the only place you should go is Hudson. And so I said, okay. And I heard that from a few people. And so I looked it up, and it was in Santa Barbara, and it was a week in person, a quarter in Santa Barbara. And I was living in LA, no brainer. So I went to Hudson, and I did their, 18-month program with my incredible cohort, who I'm still very involved with today, and made that transition. So now I'm in the process of, I am coaching a lot through an app, and I'm also building my private practice.
What, through all of your experience with all of your lessons, all of this amazingly, and some of it very like different career trajectories, like who's your favorite, like, ideal client? Like, are you dreaming into working with a certain type of person? Just
yes, and I'm finding there are 2 kind of camps of people that I'm really resonating with and is really kind of the most juicy and fun for me. Although I'm coaching people through all stages of, whatever. But there's one where it is, I'm going to say mostly high functioning women, although there are a couple of men in this camp who have been incredible individual contributors. And now they're in a leadership position. And now they're going, ooh, the skills that got me here are not the skills that are going to get me there. And so really defining, oh, I'm a leader now. How do I want to show up as a leader? How do I move from tactical to strategic? What does that mean? What kind of leader do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Like, ooh, that work is super fun. And then the other side of it is I seem to be coming across many people who either they're an artist of some kind or they have a very distinct personal mission of some kind, and they have never given themselves permission to pursue it.
Oh, wow.
And it won't shut up. And so when I'm working with them, it seems to be right at the point of trying to figure out how to give them permission to pursue the thing and feeling like now is the time and I have to pursue the thing. And I've spent a lot of time avoiding pursuing the thing, but now I have to, and I'm not sure I can, and I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure what I need to do. And so that inflection point to me is very thrilling, and it feels important. Like it feels like such a mission-driven moment. And so to hold space with people while they're kind of at that moment is thrilling.
No, and I feel like it's happening for a lot of people, right? Like whether it's just what's happening in the world, the timing of all the things that have happened, that a lot of people are like, okay, it's time to do something. The thing that I've wanted to do.
You know what I think part of it is there's no rules anymore. Let's be real. There's no rules. Everything we thought was true about how careers were supposed to go and how paths were supposed to be, and all the rules, if you followed them, you were going to be successful.
You're going to be successful.
How we thought presidents should behave. I'll say it. All of that has kind of gone poof. If you're loyal to your company, you will be rewarded. Like, what is true anymore that we thought was true? So the point being, if none of that is true, or maybe it's true, but maybe it's not carved in stone the way that we thought it did, what does that actually make possible for me to do in my life?
Right.
If I don't have to follow this prescribed something, and also if we're not promised tomorrow, and also we don't know what's going to happen, why not do the thing that you were put on earth to do?
Yeah, because I think we need more people doing that thing or the thing that is true to them, so that things start shifting in a more positive direction.
Yeah. Imagine if everybody did that.
Yeah. We're open-hearted, doing the thing they loved, not feeling repressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always and how do I make money doing that is always the thing, right? And the reason why your parents told you not to go to art school or said, I'm not going to pay for you to do that unless you go to law school. But I think it can be figured out.
It can. Yeah. Like AI is, like, I think a thing that is unlocking because, it's going to take over a whole lot of things so that means we need to follow the thing that lights us up, the thing that makes us who we are, because AI will never be able to take that over. And
the thing that makes us human.
And an individual, and bring our own magic to whatever it is that really lights us up. So it could be really exciting.
I think it can be. I mean, we wish that the AI would get on with like doing our laundry and cleaning our floors so that we could do the creative stuff. I mean, that'd be good use of it. But but I think you're right. There's so many of the cog in the wheel jobs that are going to look so different.
Yeah. Some I feel like will go back to like the farming and everything else because the robots, well, maybe they'll eventually be able to do that. But, right, like the pieces in the middle, like there'll be more space for us to hopeful. I like to be hopeful about it, to be more human.
Yeah.
On the
I
periphery.
mean, we have to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, is there anything that you wish you had known before that you would have loved to have told your younger self? You wouldn't be here if you did, but is there anything, or maybe somebody who's kind of in an earlier stage and is questioning things?
Yeah. It's funny because, you look backwards and you connect all the dots and you don't regret,
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
got to where you are. But if I could have done it differently, I think I would have given myself permission early on to
Mm-hmm.
do something more creative, to do, like, honestly, here's confession time. The person who I see now, whose career I kind of wish I had,
Uh-huh.
is Katie Couric.
Mm,
The way she is now with her whole media company
yeah.
and doing what she wants to do and pursuing what she wants to pursue. And I think being of such service in so many places, I just think she's incredible. And I watched her do this incredible thing on Instagram. There was one of the many like shootings at University of Virginia.
Wow.
And she went to University of Virginia and she got the editor of that paper on a live Instagram, like this 20-year-old young woman, and interviewed her as like the correspondent on the front lines. And as she was giving her exposure, asking her all the questions, she was also coaching her on how to play this role on the Instagram live as the reporter that she was. And it was so subtle and so incredibly supportive. And I watched it and I was like, I see what you're doing, Katie. And that is incredible. Like, so generous,
Mm-hmm.
literally training that young woman how to do a live reporting on the spot of something so tragic. And she was right there while getting the news. I don't need to say it 10 times, but
Yeah.
what she did in that moment was all the things. It was incredible.
Wow. That gave me goosebumps. I didn't know she had done that.
I think she
That's
does that kind of
amazing.
thing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the kind of leaders we need.
100%. And I wish I'd given myself permission to do that when I was young. Because when I figured out I didn't want to be an actor, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in retrospect, like all I did was listen to talk radio. I would have loved to have had a radio show back in the day, but
Yeah.
I had no idea how to do that or how to pursue it or what. So then I was an early adopter of podcasts. When I started podcasting, I had to do videos of here's what a podcast is. Here's where you find it. Here's how you turn it on. Like people, Mark Maron was probably 10 years before me, but it wasn't a big thing. And a lot of people didn't know what it was.
No,
So to see where it is now is crazy.
Even I think when I started listening to them, I think it was in 2020, like when we're all home with maybe it was a little bit before. No, it was a little bit before, but maybe it was 2018, 2019. And it was like, oh, look at this amazing thing on my telephone. This is so cool.
It's incredible.
I didn't even know what it was, this goofy little icon.
All these people who are suddenly so accessible and having these intimate conversations, and you can just listen as if you're in the room with them.
Yeah.
Talking about important things. Yeah.
So and sometimes not such important things. And that
and
was
sometimes
also fun.
Nonsense. funny nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, because you still have a podcast. Which one? What is it?
I have a new podcast. It's funny because I laid it down for a couple of years and I was like, I don't have to do this podcasting all the time now because as you're learning a new kind of discipline, like I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to talk about it. So then it came to me. It's called Deep Work Out Loud. And I'm talking with fellow coaches and we're doing a deep dive on one topic. And it was inspired, I do have to say, by Brene Brown and Adam Grant when they were doing podcasts to introduce Brene's new book, Strong Ground. They did a series of like 6 podcasts talking about the concepts in the book. But one of them just started, like she came on and said, here's this thing, Adam, I'm thinking about that I need to take to my coach. And I don't even remember what the thing was, but she laid out this topic. And he coached her on it, and they went back and forth for half an hour until they got to a whole new understanding of what this thing was. And then she said, okay, well, if you bought the book, I guess on page 125, you're going to have to write down this thing we just figured out because I didn't put it in the book. And it was great. And it was just a quick 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, that is a great concept for a podcast. So I meet with another coach. They lay out one topic that is near and dear to their heart. And then we talk about it. And we go back and forth until we feel like we got it. And it's a half an hour. And it's different from anything I've done before, mostly because it has nothing to do with Hollywood. And it's funny because when you're inside Hollywood, you think that has great appeal. And then, you move to Tennessee and you realize not everyone is obsessed with Hollywood. So I do feel like it has a lot broader appeal. And my husband and his coworkers listen to it at work, and then they talk about it because it's a lot of stuff that really helps you with work and with leadership. So that's been really fun. So I'm doing that alongside the coaching.
Amazing. So is there anything else that you're really lit up about or that is coming down the pike that you would love people to know about?
Thank you for asking. I am trying to put together a kind of a group coaching cohort with a group of women who are kind of at that flashpoint of going from individual contributor to leadership. And some of them, you may have been in leadership for a while, but you're starting to think, maybe I need to think about this in a different way. So I'm trying to put together a cohort of women to really dive deep into that and really focus on, as I talked about before, how am I showing up? What skills do I need? What does this look like going forward? How do I make this shift? So it'll be a little bit curriculum and a lot of coaching and also a lot of peer support and being there with people who are also going through it with you in a really safe space because they're not in your company or competitors or anything, so that you can really talk about this stuff. So I'm trying to put a group of that together. So
do you have a timeline?
As soon as I get the group together, we're going to start. And then if I have way more people than I need, I'm going to just keep making groups. So my website is julieharrisoliver.com. Super easy. And then there's a tab for group coaching. And there you can click into have a discovery call about it. And then you can make an appointment with me and we can talk about it and we can see if that's something you want to do.
Awesome.
Also on the website, you can find where to meet with me to coach individually.
Amazing. And do you want to point them to any socials, or we'll include your podcast information as well so people can come listen?
Thank you. Yes. Deep Work Out Loud is a podcast. It is also on my website. I have a tab for the podcast. But you can also find it on YouTube, and you can also find the audio, all the places that you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I don't even know what all the places are, but if there's a place, it's probably there. I'm on LinkedIn, Julie Harris Oliver, and my Instagram is Julie Harris Oliver. I'm Julie Harris Oliver everywhere. So,
that's nice. You only have to remember one thing.
You can find me. I have the other 50%. A podcast for that, but that's really more the older podcast. I'm putting all the deep work stuff out loud under my name because it also goes with the coaching.
Yeah, amazing. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
That's my favorite question in a podcast. Let me consult my notes and make sure I said all the things I wanted to say. I think that's it. I think we got it.
Yeah, because sometimes there is something big. It's like, oh, wait, there's one more thing. But sometimes there's
I'm going to remember that the minute we hang up.
Yes, exactly. You're like, and then, oh, nuts.
And then think about it for the next 6 months. That's how that's going to go.
That just means you need to come back.
And another thing.
And another. So, well, thank you so much, Julie, for being here and sharing your amazing story. And all of your wisdom.
That cracks me up.
It's
Victoria,
true.
thank you for having me. Thank you for providing this platform and inviting me. I've had the best time.
Me as well. So thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed Julie's story and would love to work with her, all of her links will be in the show notes. Please follow her on all the socials, listen to her podcast. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, review, send to your friends. All is welcome and appreciated. So thank you and see you next time.